Yeah, now it's working. All right, so now it's saved, right? Hi everyone, I hope I'm audible and visible. Can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Let me just check if I'm audible and visible, and then we start with the session. So we have a very, very important session today. We have XAT decision making, something we've not covered so far. Therefore, it's the most important session for today. So I just hope I am audible and visible. Let me just check it out once, and then we start with the session. Okay, so that means I am audible and visible, I hope. I can see that we are live now. Let's start with the session. Let's start with the XAT decision making session. So this is one of the most important sessions because generally you do not find a lot of sessions being conducted for XAT in general, or even if we have, this is something which tests us on the basics of decision making part. How good are we as a manager? How good are we as a consultant? This is what they want to test us on, right? So this is what we're going to cover in the session today. Just to recheck again, I'm audible and visible, I hope. All right, so why am I not able to write here? Just a second, I'm getting a call from Unacademy. Hello. Hello. Okay, so I hope this slide is visible. So let's talk about decision making here. I'm so sorry, I'm not able to still write it. I do not know why am I facing this issue, but I hope we don't. Let's quickly go through the slide. What does it have to say? So decision making is basically a unique section for that. We'll generally find that there are a lot of questions being posted for decision making, and it's not just decision making in general. It could be decision making based on some mathematical concepts. It can also be decision making for some managerial questions being asked, or maybe something related to the consultancy questions, right? So this is something which students generally get stuck with, and they generally find that they have different perceptions for the questions, so they have different answers. But eventually, what they're looking for is one generic answer which is acceptable by everyone, and something which is not based on perception, but something based on what should be the best possible solution to a problem which has been portrayed, or something better than what we could expect otherwise, right? So decision making questions categories can be, we can have mathematical questions, basically in form of data interpretation or logical reasoning sets. These questions are generally very data intensive and require in-depth analysis. So make sure that you quickly scan through the problem and only solve them if they appear to be manageable within a decent amount of time. right? So anything which is based on mathematical question might be testing you on maybe the average age of a class, or maybe the average weight of a class was so and so, and in the options they ask you that total weight could be this or that, right? So somehow they're discussing some mathematical concepts. Maybe they'll give you some caselets on DILR and then question you something on mathematical concepts itself. So such questions we can expect in the XAT decision making part. Also, we do have behavioral and managerial questions. When we talk about behavioral and managerial questions, these would be more or less like how is a person supposed to behave in a certain situation? What are the drawbacks, or what are the points you need to consider for a certain person, a certain situation? If you are a manager of an organization wherein you have hired, say, 5 freshers, 4 of them seem to work really well. They're really nice to interact with. They do projects, do submit all the projects in time, and following the deadlines, working up before the deadlines and beforehand. But in some cases, we'll find that the managerial questions might be really tricky, right? So in the same question, if I say that, okay, there is one fresher, one student whom the organization hired, like one person the organization hired, and he or she is not really comfortable with the 9 to 5 role. They're not ready to sit at one place for long hours and work. They're not at all serious about the project submission. They're not at all serious about the expedition, required for a project to be submitted before a deadline. So such things, if they come across, we generally come across a lot of issues, right? So what should a manager do in a certain scenario? What should be the role of a manager in a certain scenario? These are quite interesting sort of questions. Here you're provided with a situation in which multiple courses of action arise, or there are multiple fallouts of a particular action, and you're supposed to identify the correct path or analysis. Generally, these questions pose ethical, management, human resource related dilemmas that you're expected to address and solve. Right. Effectively, you can view these questions as a combination of critical reasoning and reading comprehension questions. So they can be both for critical reasoning and reading comprehension questions. But otherwise, you'll find that such questions are for the behavioral and managerial questions as well. Right. So if you have typically these set of questions, you have to not act like a person who's very, very, uh, concerned about one person and not the others, but as a person who would be a manager catering to everyone's needs, and still figuring out a solution for a situation like this, wherein the person who's your employee and the organization you guys are working for, both of them are benefited. Certain solution should be figured out, right? So behavioral management questions, if we talk about, these are quite interesting sort of questions. uh, Sorry. You provided with a situation in which multiple courses of action arise, or there are multiple fallouts of a particular action, and you're supposed to identify the correct path. So that correct path you're supposed to figure out, or the analysis you're supposed to get done, is something which should be midway. It should be something that is catering to everybody's problems and giving a solution, a one-way solution for everyone, right? So what sort of questions can we expect, or format of decision making questions can we expect? In terms of how the questions appear in the exam, the following types of questions we can expect. Uh, Single question prompts can be there. These mimic critical reasoning questions where a single paragraph is followed by one question. So you're given one paragraph, right? And on the basis of that one paragraph, you have one question for one paragraph, right? So they're more like CR questions which are given to you, right? So these would be more like CR questions which have been given to us, where a single paragraph is followed by one question. So one paragraph and one question we have. Generally, you should go through the majority of these questions, as these are not time intensive and you can easily gain a foothold in the section using these. The number of such questions has increased in the last couple of years. So initially, that would throw away questions like comprehension questions, reading comprehension, long questions, and they would expect you to be able to solve those questions. So if given a question like that, when you're given a long set of question and you're supposed to solve it, you might end up reading the entire passage, investing in more time in the reading of the passage rather than being able to solve the question. And once you're done with the reading, post that, when you come out to the solving the question, you find that, okay, for this entire passage I have just one question to solve. So in terms of time and profitability for the question, that question might not seem to be a good a good deal for you then. So in order to overcome that, the XAT decision-making set, which was being initially prepared by the exam setting, body, they have made a huge change for the decision-making part. They have contracted the entire passage which you would get for decision-making initially as an entire RC. Now it has been contracted to just one or maybe two paragraphs, for say, right? Just to make you more comfortable and being able to save your time when it comes to decision-making questions. So this is one big change which has happened over the span of, say, almost a decade. Because if I talk about 2019 exam, 2019 decision making, for example, and 2009 decision making, you'll find that there's a huge pattern change. Initially, there used to be really lengthy paragraphs and then one question for each paragraph. In one set, one question. Nowadays, we have one paragraph but two questions for it, sometimes three questions for it. So the pattern has entirely changed. Similarly, when you have 2 or 3 questions per prompt, these questions consist of a moderate prompt followed by 2 or 3 questions. On a number of occasions, long caselets have been provided by XAT which have been followed by only 2 or 3 questions. So make sure you select the questions you wish to attempt wisely, as you do not want to end up wasting too much of time on 2 questions, right? So because we do not want to waste up our time for too much of, just 2 questions. So it's good to read that paragraph quickly and carefully, right? And then solving the questions rather than just thinking, okay, we'll be solving it in a while or so. But you should always be like that, okay, you're reading the paragraph and quickly solving the question, or maybe the questions related to it. So if you have one paragraph, one question, it's good enough. But if you have one paragraph, 2 questions related to it, it's rather better, because we are able to fetch more marks, like more, there are more chances that you'll be able to solve the questions if you've understood the paragraph. And if you get one paragraph and 2 questions, that's anyway good for you if you're able to solve the questions correctly, right? Because you're able to get the deal, like it's a richer deal for you, right? So these questions consist of a moderate prompt, 2 or 3 questions per prompt per question. 4 or 5 questions per prompt. These questions are generally long caselets that are followed by 4 to 5 questions. So you have one long caselet given to you, and for that one caselet you have 4 to 5 questions. In these caselets, you generally have multiple viewpoints presented, and at times these are as long as reading comprehensions. So these caselets can be sometimes lengthier, like the RCs passages we have. Otherwise, you'll have one passage, one paragraph, and one question. One paragraph, maximum 2 to 3 questions, right? So this is the format of decision-making questions we generally come across. XAT decision-making, things to be kept in mind. Certain things we have to really look through very carefully. So these are basic things which we should definitely not mind while we are solving the passage. Establish stakeholders in a given period, in a given problem, right? So stakeholders as in, what are the main elements being talked about in the paragraph? What are the main characters being discussed in the passage? That is something we should be aware of. So you should establish stakeholders in a given problem. What is the main character being discussed? What are the main objects being discussed in the passage? That is something you should know. So in decision-making question, every situation involves multiple stakeholders. So every situation would have multiple stakeholders, people or parties for which that information is relevant. Make sure you make a mental list of all of these, right? So in DM questions, in decision-making questions, every situation involves multiple stakeholders. There are a lot of stakeholders involved, people or parties for which that information is relevant, right? For which part is it important? Is it important or relevant? That is something you should make sure. Make sure you make a mental list of all of these, right? So whatever characters, whatever main things are being involved in the passage, that should definitely be taken care of specifically. Right, then analyze problems holistically, being able to see that what problem is there, and you're being able to analyze it holistically, right? Specifically going through the problem and then figuring out the answer is really, really important. So for the stakeholders that you have analyzed, make sure you are able to analyze the problem from the viewpoint of every stakeholder, right? Every stakeholder, as in what all characters are involved, everyone should be benefited, not just you. If there's an organization who is producing, say, food for the world, so that organization has to not just take care of the sales of that product which it's creating, developing. It should also see that the product is helpful for the others, right? The product should not have anything harmful for the people, because that's a food, right? So we should make sure that whatever stakeholders are involved, right, the problem should be solved in such a manner that every stakeholder should be benefited if it is a part of the problem or a mess which has been portrayed, right? So analysis of the problem is extremely, extremely crucial. Do not adopt viewpoints that neglect one side of the story. So if there is a viewpoint that neglects, that kind of does not portray one side of the story, that should not be adopted. Third thing is take the viewpoint that maximizes benefit and minimizes damage, right? So take the viewpoint that maximizes benefit. You should go with a viewpoint that is always maximizing your benefit and minimizing damage, right? It should not be damaging in a sense. In decision-making questions, you're supposed to select the option that maximizes the benefit of the majority, right? Maximum people should be benefited from it and should not be impactful in a negative way. So at times, this might mean selecting a course of action that might be completely risk-free, right? So in decision-making questions, you're supposed to select the option that maximizes the benefit for the majority, and at times this might mean selecting a course of action that might be completely risk-free. So go for something which does not pose even a risk to you or your organization. That is another important thing, that it should not be posing any risk. It should be beneficial. And next thing we need to check is that avoid personal opinions. Of course, your own opinions should not be shared. You should avoid personal opinions. Do not favor any one side in any particular case. It is a common tendency of students to adopt an approach based on your own value system. Also, you must not allow personal options to cloud your judgment, right? So do not favor any one side in any particular case. Any one side as in, if I for example, if I talk about that employee and the organization. So one thing, the employee should be benefited. Another thing is that the organization should also be benefited. It should not be just that we are just thinking from the organization's perspective because we are the manager for that organization and that employee does not matter to us. It should not be like that. As long as that employee is a part of the organization, we should always think about the employee as well, right? So personal opinions should not be impacting you or your question stem there. Do not favor any one side of any particular case, right? So cater both the stakeholders, not just one side. Common tendency hota hai that we get impacted by, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what my view is. But then they've given you a question not to gauge the question or analyze the question from your perspective or just your view. You should think about it from a generic view. How should a person, XYZ person or third person looking at the problem should be able to solve the question, right? You must not allow personal opinions to cloud your judgment. Anyway, your personal upbringing or personal opinions, your own views should not be impacting the situation. That's really important. Do not adopt unethical practices. Yes, unethical practices as in anything which is immoral should not be impacting, right? Something which is not allowed as per the moral values should not be considered. So options that present shortcuts or unethical ways of solving a problem need to be instantly rejected. If we find that any of the options says that it's an extreme thing and you know that you would never do it, right? Never do it as in maybe if you know that for example, in an organization you've been working, it's a food industry, and you know that your organization has some of the preservatives being used. It has been using some preservatives for that food product, which is harmful for the intake. If somebody takes in or eats that preservative through some kind of food product, that's harmful. That's something which is dangerous for the body. It's harmful for the body. So naturally, that it's not good for the body, so it should be avoided. But since it's getting a lot of sales to your organization, the product is getting sales to your organization, you might still think of, okay, I should keep on selling the product, no matter it's harmful for the people, right? So that is when we get immoral. That is when we go unethically, going by the ways, unethical about the ways of solving the problem. So that should not be done, right? So do not adopt unethical practices. That's really important. Do not select options that pronounce unsubstantiated judgments. Don't go for options that pronounce unsubstantiated judgment. Any judgment that comes out without any proper reasoning behind it, that should not be selected. That should always be avoided. So many of the options that present extreme scenarios are actually nothing but cleverly conceived opinions, right? So if you have any of the options that present something extreme, something really unwanted or something ethically incorrect, that should be avoided. Such opinions should be avoided. Remember, these opinions appeal to emotion and can tempt you to select them, right? So these options might be there, such opinions might be there. All you're supposed to do is you're just supposed to ignore such options. You should eliminate those options right away. You should not be considering such options. Be careful about them and make sure you do not get enticed by the trap, right? So you should just be a little careful about them and do not be attracted by the traps. That's really very important, that such traps should be avoided. If something which is unethical is present, you should not be going by it, right? That should be definitely instantly rejected. Question yourself and make sure you're not missing anything. So majority of the times you'll find that you're faced with intricate scenarios. Really, intricacy is something which is going in depth. So majority of the times you're faced with intricate scenarios where you miss one element of the or the other while solving a problem. So while solving a problem, you're missing on one of the elements and solving the other point, right? So make sure you question yourself about these assumptions and ensure that you've not missed some vital piece of data, right? So make sure you question yourself about these assumptions. Why do I have such an assumption, or what is it doing to the problem? So there should not be an assumption, is one thing, and ensure that you've not missed some vital piece of data. Any important piece of data should not be missed upon, right? So make sure that you are not missing on anything really important, right? Covering everything which is important, and also making sure that you have a very unbiased view towards the problem, towards the analysis of the problem, right? That's another important thing. So let's have a look at some questions. I'm going to give you 1 minute to go through the question first, right? Like this is your paragraph. So this is one question we've been given. This is one caselet. And for this one question, we have one question for each caselet, right? So take 1 minute, 2 minutes, quickly go through it. Let me know once you're done. We'll be moving ahead to the question right away. Please have a look at the question. Options are debatable, right, Rivit? Krishna, Chaitanya. That's so sweet to know. Thanks for always holding your spirits up to help students. Thank you so much, Krishna, for such views. That's really sweet to know. Please read the paragraph. Let me know once you're done, everyone who's here. And once you guys are done, we'll be quickly going through it together. Let me know once done reading. All right, Rivit is done. Krishna is also done. Um, have a look at the question quickly. Yes, Prashant, I will be reducing my frame. Let me see if I can do that, but right now I don't think I'll be able to do. Let me just try doing it, though I'm not sure if I would be able to. I'll have to ask them for the settings, I think. Let's just try to cover it in this session at least. From next session onwards, I'll try that the frame is a little reduced. Okay. I know it's hiding a lot, but then here it's just roles which is there. Press and hold it to resize. Acha, let me try it. Uh, oh. I think it's not happening for now. If there would be anything like this, which is being hidden here, I'll probably dictate it for you. I think that would be better because for now it would be a little tough and maybe I won't even know, where the screen goes. And then we'll have to leave the session in between. So let's for at least for today we can manage it somehow. But I'll get it set it again so that for next session again we have better view angle and everything. Shall we go through the passage together? It says, Mrs. Biswas has been leading business manager in the world of business and has established her credentials in a world dominated by men. She has primarily worked in the industry and has extensive knowledge of the field. She recently started her own cosmetics firm and has decided to make sure that the females find adequate representations in her company. In her experiences in the cosmetic industry, she has generally seen that the sales and marketing wings of most companies are dominated by men. Keeping this in mind, she has decided to employ at least 50% females in the sales and marketing department for her company, right? So entire paragraph talks about Mrs. Biswas, who has been a leading business manager in the world of business. She has been a really amazing leader when it comes to business, and she has established her credentials in a world dominated by men, right? She has established her credentials means she was a very well-known name in the world dominated by men, something which is more, men dominated. She has primarily worked in the industry. Majorly, she's worked in the industry and has extensive knowledge of the field. She knows how this industry works, right? The cosmetic industry works. She recently started her own cosmetics firm, and has decided to make sure that females find adequate representation in her company. Since she has worked in an organization which was rather male dominated. Acha, Rivit, okay, I use Streamlabs. You've forgotten using OBIS. Okay, all right. Is it another another app we can use it for? Maybe it is. Okay, I'll try using Streamlabs from next time then. Maybe if it works well. So in her experiences in the cosmetic industry, she has generally seen that the sales and marketing wings of most companies are dominated by men. Keeping this point in mind, she has decided to employ at least 50% females in the sales and marketing department of her company. So now she's like, okay, females को इतना representation नहीं मिलता था, इतना view उनको इतना importance नहीं मिलता था, तो मेरी organization में I'll try that at least we have 50% females and 50% males. Right, so she has decided to employ at least 50% females in the sales and marketing department for her company. This would at least fetch her some, equal catering to females. That is what she wanted, and maybe through her own organization, she'll be able to achieve that to some extent. Now, this is good enough to understand and read. Let's talk about the question. It says, which of the following could be the most serious issue that Mrs. Biswas might face with her decision? So, one of the most important serious issues that Mrs. Biswas might face with her decision. Which of the following options do you think can be the answer? The job might have travel requirements that might pose a challenge for females. Females have an intrinsic understanding of the use of cosmetics that men do not have. It is not necessary that females wish to take up these roles. Men are better at sales than females, and both 2 and 4. What should be the answers, guys? Can you guys help me out? Please give me the answer choice quickly. Okay, Krishna goes for 1, Rivit goes for 3. Let's quickly check it out. Which of the following could be the most serious issue that Mrs. Biswas might face with her decision? Right. So most serious issue क्या है? The job might have travel requirements that might pose a challenge for females. हो सकता है उसमें बहुत सारे traveling required हो जो females के लिए challenge pose कर सकता है. Females that have an intrinsic understanding of the issue of the use of cosmetics that men do not have. So females do have an intrinsic understanding of the use of cosmetics that men do not have. It has nothing to do. If females have an intrinsic understanding of the use of cosmetics, this would rather be helpful. It would not be a challenge. It would rather be helpful for the decision. Right. So second option is somehow better. Right. So this cannot be a problem. It would rather be a better thing for them. It is not necessary that females wish to take up these roles. Men are better at sales than females, and both 2 and 4. So if we look at the second one, definitely it's something which is strengthening. It is not necessary that females wish to take up these roles. Maybe females do wish to take up these roles. Men are better at sales than females, so this would not be a problem. They should rather take more males then. Right, so this definitely is incorrect. This one is also incorrect. We have only just option number 1. Right. 1 is the only point we can think of as the answer choice. Job might have travel requirements that might be challenging for the females. Maybe we have some females who are not keeping well. Maybe there are some of them who got pregnant and they could not travel. So there can be any number of challenges which we can have for the females. But if females are good in cosmetics, that would not be a challenge to the problem. It is not necessary that females wish to take up these roles. Females, maybe they want to take up these roles, but they're not able to. Men are better at sales than females. Again, this is not a challenge. This is rather better. Right, so answer for this question has to be option number 1. Quickly go through the explanation they've given so that we can move ahead. Everyone, just 1 minute, go through the option explanation and then we move ahead. All right. So I hope everybody's done reading. It says in the given case also, we can see that prompt gives us a critical reasoning option here. Right? It's more like we have to think from the Mrs. Biswas point of view that why is she going for more of females as compared to males, and what could have been one of the challenges she might have faced with keeping more of females, in certain scenario. So definitely option number 1 is a better choice. In the given case, the option behaves like a critical reasoning question. Critical reasoning prompt. The fact is that Mrs. Biswas wishes to address the problem of gender equality. Her solution is to have a selection criteria on the basis of gender. In this case, she neglects the fact that the given option, given job role might have certain requirements which require males, and this is a great threat to her plan. Option 2 does not weaken the argument, rather strengthens it. Option 3 does not provide conclusive evidence against the argument. Option 4 is a prejudiced statement, and we definitely can avoid such options, right? So better to go for option number 1. Okay, please have a look at this question. I'm sure my screen would not be interfering in the question this time. Take 1 minute, quickly go through it, and then we discuss it out right here. It's something which is based on management issue. Have a look at the question, then we discuss it right here. All right. Shall we have a look at the question? Let me ask you, what is the answer for the question? You are the HR manager of your organization. There is a hard-working employee, Sanjeev, in your organization. In terms of behavior, effort, diligence, Sanjeev is one of the topmost employees in the organization, right, in the company. The issue is that the company is a call center for a US-based company, and the Sanjeev's communication skills are not up to the level. Even after being given training, Sanjeev has not been able to improve his communication skills. How many of us did not understand the argument? This is the argument which has been given to you. How many of us did not understand the argument, guys? कितने लोगों को argument ही समझ नहीं आया? Question क्या है? You're talking about the HR manager of your organization, that you are the HR manager of your organization, and there is a hardworking employee, Sanjeev. Hardworking means positive, something positive about Sanjeev. In terms of behavior, effort, diligence, Sanjeev is one of the topmost employees in the company, right? If it comes to behavior, effort, and diligence, he's the topmost employee in the organization. Issue is that the company is a call center. The only problem is that company is a call center for a US-based company, and Sanjeev's communication skills are not up to the level, right? You are working in an organization which is basically, the company is a call center for a US-based company, and Sanjeev's communication skills are not up to the level. Sanjeev के जो communication skills है वो उतने अच्छे level के नहीं हैं. Even after being trained, Sanjeev has not been able to improve his communication skills. जो skills चाहिए organization के लिए, even after being trained, ample of training has been given to him, still he's not able to achieve that level of training, right? So that is another issue. Now, what should you be doing in the given scenario? ऐसे problem में तुमको क्या करना चाहिए? What should you be doing in a given scenario like this? What is your say? What should you be doing? Ask Sanjeev to leave. Provide another training to Sanjeev. Find another job for Sanjeev. change the job role of Sanjeev or both 1 and 3? What should you be doing? If I look at 1, ask Sanjeev to leave, only this would not do, right? If we provide another training to Sanjeev, he's already been trained ample number of time. Usko hum kai bari already trained kar chuke, right? Even after being given training, Sanjeev is not able to improve his communication skills. That means this training is not helping him. Find another job for Sanjeev. एक और जॉब ढूंढ दो संजीव के लिए. अगर आप उसको दूसरी जॉब देते भी हो तो भी maybe that would be helpful for him. Change the job role of Sanjeev. संजीव का जॉब रोल ही चेंज कर दिया, उसकी दूसरी जॉब रोल में भेज दिया. लेकिन कॉल सेंटर है, दी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज अ कॉल सेंटर फॉर यूएस बेस्ड कंपनी. अगर ये कॉल सेंटर है तो नेचुरली कॉल सेंटर के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा, उसको कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स तो अच्छा चाहिएगा, और उसको मेन प्रॉब्लम ही कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स का है. ठीक है, सो चेंज द जॉब रोल वुड नॉट हेल्प. प्रोवाइडिंग अनदर ट्रेनिंग टू संजीव वुड नॉट हेल्प. बट इफ यू कंबाइन 1 and 3, वुड दैट वर्क? यू आर आस्किंग संजीव टू लीव. आपने बोला कि संजीव आप दूसरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम कर लो, और दूसरा आपने उसके लिए कोई और जॉब ढूंढ दिया. फाइंडिंग जॉब रोल फॉर संजीव, अनदर जॉब रोल फॉर संजीव. इवन दैट शुड वर्क, राइट? सो कैन आई से दिस वुड बी अ बेटर चॉइस? E would be a better choice here, going for both 1 and 3. Do you think this would be a better choice, going 1 and 3 together? 1, you ask Sanjeev to leave. 2, you change the job role of Sanjeev. No, you find another job for Sanjeev. Yes. So 1 and 3 combined, that is option number E is the correct answer choice. Did we get this? Any doubts anywhere we didn't understand, guys? Anything we didn't understand? If there are no doubts, let's keep it till here, right? And we'll be catching up again in the evening, maybe around 6:30 itself. We'll be carrying on from here in the another XAT session, right? So make sure that you know what concepts are being tested here and you are attending all the sessions. That's really, really important. Do not forget to attend the sessions, guys. I'll be conducting another session in the evening. We do have another session. Join us around 6:30 p.m. I'll be sharing the session, the link in case you're not there in the Telegram channel or WhatsApp group. You can join us. I'll be sharing the link there too. We'll be catching up again at 6:30 now. All right. Thank you so very much, guys, for joining in. Let's